Hello everyone, welcome to this lovely small little Hatha Yoga flow. Today I am inviting you to find balance and strength in motion. We're going to try and find harmony in stillness but also in movement. So the poses that we are going to hold are from beginner to intermediate level. There will be modifications such as progressions if needed, and modifications as well if the poses can feel too hard for you. You will need a mat. Today I do not have blocks, but you can have blocks, and I will mention when the blocks are appropriate to be used in this context. We are surrounded by beautiful nature. And I apologize if you can hear a few noises here and there, but we have a wonderful setting. I feel extremely relaxed, and this is kind of inviting to make sure that each pose that you do should be taken really slowly. We are going to hold the poses for at least a minute to sometimes up to 2 minutes. So this will kind of help you really take the moment to bring awareness. Listen to the cues that I will give you throughout the pose so you can take yourself into your body, take yourself fully into the asana, and really take a moment to correct and try and activate certain muscles that maybe you won't feel activating when you are practicing a more rapid vinyasa flow, for example. So the movements are again very slow, controlled, relaxed, and again I'm trying to invite you to slow down, and we are really going to slow down through the breath and through the movement. I hope you enjoyed this flow. It shouldn't last longer than 30 minutes. All right, so the first pose that we are going to do is always the most important pose to start in yoga is Tadasana, and it's a mountain pose. So what I would like you to do with a mountain pose is we are going to let ourselves climb up. So when you climb up from the bottom, I want you to really think of grounding your feet. So for example, in this instance, because I am in very lovely grass, I am actually going to place my feet bare feet. If you're in socks, that is not an issue at all. You can always wear your socks. But try to find your big toes together. We're going to try and lift the toes and expand them to the side. And then try and bring your toes one by one down into the ground. When I think about my feet, I really think about my feet rooting down like a tree. And then the next thing that we are going to think of is kind of pushing into our ankle bones, pushing into the ground through the feet, even the outer foot, creating this sort of arch underneath the foot. We are going to then start lifting up through the inner thighs. As you lift up through the inner thighs, you also lift your kneecaps. And then we're going to try and find that pelvis and that hips lifting up. The pelvis kind of lifts up as your diaphragm as well. And I like to imagine that from the pelvis down is the trunk of the tree. So as the thighs start activating, your glutes start activating, but we are not overly engaged. We just feel really grounded. I always think it's the trunk, so it's extremely stable and it feels really strong. Now let's think about our belly button and the navel and the spine. The navel is going to try and rise in and upwards. We're still going to try and draw the ribcage towards the pelvis, so not letting it too much flaring out. The spine start lengthening a little bit more. And we're going to smile with the collarbones. Thinking about the shoulder blades, try and imagine that your shoulder blades are like two sliding doors coming open and underneath your armpits, and this will kind of open the shoulders and let your arms fall onto the side of the body. The palms are facing forward, or you can also open them into the front, or you can have them facing your legs. The chin is lifted, like we place it parallel to the floor, and I always imagine I'm being uplifted by the top of my head. Tadasana Samastiti. You can close your eyes here for a few breaths. We're really going to try and take a moment just to find this grounding before we take on the next pose. In through the nose, nice and slow. Out through the mouth, nice and slow. Beautiful. You can open the eyes here again. And we're going to move on to our second pose. So if you're in your Stamastiti Tadasana here, all we have to do is open the feet into a parallel pose. Wonderful. And we're going to step the right foot forward. And we're just going to turn the back foot slightly at 45 degrees. However, the hips are still very much facing forward here for a moment. We're going to start taking a triangle pose, Uttita Trikonasana. So actually turning the foot a little bit more, make it slightly easier as well for this pose. But we want to try and find this traction between your 2 feet in order to keep that lovely stability. So I always take a moment to stabilize here. What we're going to try and do is create the space between your hip bone and your rib cage and elongating with your arms. So as you descend into your triangle pose, we're going to extend the arms to the side here. If you really struggle, you can align your heel and the arch of the foot back. Okay, don't come too big or too long between your body so you can stay quite stable. Palms down. We're going to draw the shoulder blades down. Inhale, we're just going to lift a little bit to move forward and slide. So we're not collapsing in the hips here. We still keep that length. You can push the hips a little bit back, but try and not turn them too far forward. And then we are going to start taking that triangle pose, thinking of elongating from the rib cage here. So option 1 is to stay in this position. You want to try and gaze up and lift that arm to find your gaze into the fingertips. The palm is facing forward. We are slowly, as I find my stretch here, the other arm is driving into my front leg, the right leg. Finding that stability here again. This can take a little bit of a moment. This leg is fully extended. Here I tend to try and keep my knee slightly soft in order to not push too hard on the joint. As I find my length, don't think too much about going down. Think about going in this direction here. So we're going to take the arms, and if you feel flexible today, you can be able to reach your peace fingers into your big toes. The thing that you want to try and avoid is to lean forward just to grab onto the big toes and feel like your hips are going out of line. So for me, when I hold my pose here for 1 to 2 minutes, I am then able to find the length to slowly come down while I still keep my alignment. Wonderful. From here, if you want to flow, we can flow in Virabhadrasana, a warrior 1 pose. So from here, we can start taking the arms up. Bend the front leg and turn the hips slightly back, forward towards the right side. So we want to try and lift the chest here. It's okay to just start from standing otherwise. Yes, we got the option to come back from the triangle pose and slowly move the arms. Yes, if you feel like your knee struggles a little bit, you are able to slowly turn your foot slightly, but ideally we want to keep that 45-degree angle. I will be completely honest with you, this has always been a bit of a challenge, but try and ground through the feet the same way you would in Tadasana, through the whole foot, the whole toes, the whole heels, and try and find the strength in the pelvis here. As you lift the arms and reach up, really bring that chest up, draw the shoulder blades down. You can start looking up as well. We are a warrior. We are finding our strength. We're finding a connection to the sky, and we're finding our grounding to the floor and nature. So finding the strength, maybe a bit more depth in that movement. Ooh. All right. Option to stay here for a few more breaths. before we either flow to the next move or come back. As you come back, you can place your hands into the heart center. There you go. Revolving side angle pose. This time we're going to come onto the toes. You're going to descend into a lunge. We're going to turn to the right hand side. If you need a bit of help, sometimes I start with hooking my left elbow into my right knee, and then I place my hands into the namaste position that we had standing. So the aim here is to, again, find the length rather than feeling crunched. If you're struggling to hold here, because we have to really extend the leg fully at the back here, okay, you can also come with the knee down and simply focus on your twist here, up. The aim here is to really try and keep your thumbs and try and push the thumbs into your breastbone, into this lovely pose. Okay, so option to stay here, option to extend the arms, option to find your lift, option to open the arms in your lunge. Again, find the arm up, align your nose and your chin to look up towards the sky. Beautiful. Whew. Very nice. And slowly from here, we're going to come into our wonderful half moon pose, Ardha Chandrasana. So this can feel a little bit challenging. I'm going to offer different options here. First of all, if you were starting with the knee on the floor, you are slowly going to push through your legs. The right hand is going to slowly drive in front of your right foot. You're going to gently start lifting the left leg. We're going to flex the foot, kick into the glutes, open the left toes outside. So we open the hip on the left hand side, and we're going to gently try to turn the chest, come on the fingertips, turn the chest, and find the balance here. So I am struggling my balance today. So you can stay here. Obviously, extra challenge is to look up towards your hand. Ugh. It's okay to feel a little bit destabilized. What's important here is to keep your glute, keep your glutes and your leg active. So let's try from the harder stance, which was from your revolving side angle pose. So with your revolving side angle pose, yes, your pravrita, I'm really struggling to pronounce this one, Parsva Konasana, with your namaste hands, we're going to have to switch the hands. So generally what I like to do is come into low lunge from namaste, drive my hand onto the right hand side of my right foot. I'm already lifting the arm, and then I'm going to lift my leg and my arm. So again, kick the foot nice and high, because this really engages through your glute medius. And then as I find my balance, I start twisting my chest a little bit more, and I try and look and gaze up. Wonderful. And from here, we're going to step back for a moment. Rise up. And find your Tadasana again. Wonderful. Whew. Close your eyes. When we've done this sort of balancing pose, the heart rate can rise. So this is our strength moment. Those are the moments where we feel a bit more heat. We'll just, again, find that grounding before we start on the other side. Slow breath. We're going to take a couple more in and out, nice and slow. You can switch on your ujjayi. Feeling the feet, feeling the legs. Everything is grounding and pushing upwards towards the sky. The only thing I think is pulling down is my pelvis, my shoulder blades, my armpits. Always imagine I've got magnets in my fingers pulling me down. Long neck, tall, beautiful. All right. So let's start with the other side, opening the feet. Beautiful. Stepping this time the right foot back for our triangle pose, turning maybe the toes a little bit out, aligning heel of the left foot with the right arch of your foot. Again, always start with your stability first before we even move. As we turn and we extend the arms, drop your shoulders down. Okay, we really want to find dropping the shoulders down. I'm admiring your view. When you extend the front leg, try and not overextend your knee. Try and find the strength in the thighs rather than into pushing down your kneecap. Okay, and we're going to really open this beautiful hip as well. On the inhale, we're going to take a lovely lean forward, and on the exhale, we're going to slowly twist and find our triangle pose. Remember what I said, length first, and the hand eventually is going to come down. But you can see if I was to come low, I'm not reaching into my toes. So I want to find the length here and really think pulling that hip away from you, that rib cage away from you, the shoulders. Do not forget to really open that shoulder. I always say turn your armpit where your palm is. The fingers are really going up on the right hand. We're trying to slowly reach down. You should feel this really nice progression. You can see I'm gently going further and further down and forward, but I am not collapsing. My body is responding to the stretch. Maybe I will reach my big toe, maybe not, wherever you are. I leverage my leg to keep that twist and that chest open as I gaze up towards the sky. This is beautiful. I feel very blessed to be here. Beautiful. Very nice. So slowly, now maybe try and find your warrior one. So we turn those toes, but we square those hips. If you feel you're really sinking in the knees, try and push a little bit more through the outer edge of your foot. And again, we're going to find the depth, the stretch, the length, the breath. This is wonderful. Again, turning the thighs slightly out, feeling the glutes activating that pelvis, and try and not dump everything into your lower back. So you can reach up, and I like to reach my chest a little bit higher for this one as I sink a little bit more into my knee. Always think about distraction between your two legs so you feel that engagement in the inner thigh. We want to try and feel the muscles holding you instead of pushing down into pressuring the joints. Yeah, we want to find the support in the muscle. Wonderful. We do one more breath here. And then finding your namaste, we come on the back of the toes here. Inhale, and then start turning for your revolving side angle. Again, start maybe with the arms and push. Ooh, beautiful. This is so good for the spine, but you have to keep pulling your shoulder blades away. The neck stays long, and we want to gaze towards the sky. Think about twisting from the waist and also from the chest. So I really press here. I leverage my hand to bring that thumb into the breastbone. Again, option 2, come down. Oh. Yeah, so finding your option that works for you today. Working a bit more flexibility, maybe the knee comes down, working with a combo of strength, maybe find that low lunge. One more breath. Wonderful. Exhale. Let's remember we are going to our half moon pose, Ardha Chandrasana. So option again to slowly take it one step at a time and walk. As you lift, turn the toes away to the right hand side, flex the foot, kick. My tip as well is kick that leg slightly back to engage into the glutes. So here, a block can be helpful. Yes, to help lifting up if you can't straighten the front leg. Same, we can use it in the triangle pose as well. But we can here find the block, lift the leg up and find your balance. You can see I am struggling a little bit. This is fine, take your time. Slowly take it back into that lunge. We're going to challenge ourselves a little bit more here. Coming from a revolving side angle pose in a low lunge, shifting, dropping and lifting. Woo! Yes. So as you can see, even I sometimes, and look up, open the chest, turn those armpits so your neck stays long, and gently drop the foot back down to find your Tadasana. Whew. Beautiful. So we found a bit of fire today while we also tried and find this stability. Let's keep going now. We're going to come onto our knees. We are going to move on to a camel pose. So we worked into mobilizing our spine as well as strengthening our hips. And therefore this next pose will kind of utilize the elements that we worked standing. So through the camel we are working our hips, but we are also starting to open our heart and trusting a bit more the process of opening up. So to go, you also have the option here to use blocks. If really you struggle, we can tuck the toes as well. I'm going to stay here to start, and we are going to lift again the pelvis. Drive the hands where your sacrum is, which is the bony part of your hips at the back. And I tend to imagine I want to pull it down and away from me. Again, finding this sort of Tadasana grounding position. Even as we push the hips slightly forward and we engage in opening the hips, we start driving the chest up. You can pull the elbows slightly towards each other. The neck stays long throughout the process. And as you press your hips, you can lean back. First part of our camel. So personally, I find these poses really challenging because it invites slow deep breath. It invites trusting, opening our heart, which sometimes a big sign of vulnerability, can truly kick in our fight or flight mode. And carrying our organs in front of our bodies can really make our mind quite negatively perceiving opening the front. So we want to try and really get our body to trust this. We are in a safe space. So we try and slowly open. And when you are done, come back into this easy seat. We're going to try and challenge a little bit more and go into full camel. Option is there to just kind of stay into the first pose that we just did. Personally, it's quite, it can be quite challenging to actually talk and do the pose at the same time. So we are going to gently take ourselves into this this camel. You can keep the alternate camel or go into your ustrasana, your camel pose, the full camel pose. So I like to start the same way we started. We push down the sacrum, we find our glutes, we find our pelvis, we find our core, we lift through the upper back muscles. And as we start trusting a bit more, we reach the hands to touch the heels. That's why also you can tuck the toes underneath. That gives a bit more height, it's a little bit easier. And as you reach into the heels, I like to push my chest up, open the shoulders a bit more. The neck, I try and not crunch it back, but rather keep it long. And I tend to push my hips forward here. It's very hard to talk at the same time. So if I was to take my hands off, I want to feel the hold from my muscle. You want to feel held rather than feeling collapsing. At any time, you can always come back into your easy seat pose and take a moment here. Wonderful. Slowly, we're going to come back. And we're going to move into our downward facing dog pose, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Adho Mukha, we push, tuck the toes, spread your fingers and your hands, really ground through the fingers here as well. I like to imagine that I want to ground the same way as I've rooted my feet into Dasana. I'm going to slowly push and find the tailbone pushing towards the ceiling. There are options here depending on how tight your feet, your ankles, and your hamstring feels. So I'm going to approach different options here. If your heels cannot touch the ground, that's absolutely okay. You can still stay on the top of your toes and push as long as it feels comfortable. However, my recommendation is, rather than keeping the legs straight, is to slightly bend the knees. As you can see, my belly is kind of reaching towards my thighs. And I really think about pushing this tailbone up towards the sky. And then I think about pulling my ribcage slightly in and down. Now the arms, I always think about pushing the ground away as much as I can. And I really press through my fingertips, I spread my fingers. And then I try and imagine also spreading my shoulder blades nice and wide. So finding this strength even in this pose. My head is kind of relaxed now. And we kind of try and find a bit of further length and strength in the pose. And personally, this is one of my favorite poses in yoga, because in vinyasa, Adho Mukha really provides you with these milestones of seeing your practice's effect on your body. And as we move and we always land in the downward facing dog pose, you can actually feel how things are changing throughout your practice. And they always feel like a new pose. It's very interesting. You can always modify and feel things changing in your body. From here, we're going to move into our cobra. So you have the option to move from a plank pose and then landing with the thighs. Or from here, you just kind of also bend the knees. And you can start with the forearms down and slowly pushing up from the front. The only difference is that you will be able to measure the length of your arms, rather than here you are going to have to feel confident and comfortable during this pose. All right, so cobra pose, Bhujangasana. The feet are pressing down the ground, the thighs. I still imagine bringing my tailbone under, and let's think about pulling that navel in and up. The chest is open and we push the hands up, but also the hands away from the floor. So rather than thinking about squeezing the shoulder blades too far back, we always think about finding the broad shoulder blades. We push through the armpits, long and open collarbones, smiling. So always kind of pull your hands away from each other, and then you can slowly gaze up. Again, one that is a big heart opener. In Vinyasa, we don't tend to stay in this position. But here we're going to try and find comfort, openness. You don't have to squeeze the glutes quite strongly, but a slight engagement can help. And slowly on your exhale, we are going to take a child pose. Pushing back, sitting on the heels. In this position, you can open the knees a little bit more. You can also keep them a little bit close. This changes slightly the position of your spine. Opening the knees will keep a slight extension of your spine. Bring the knees together, we'll start rounding and finding flexion. When you come from a pose that is a back bend, it is good to kind of slowly transition to flexion rather than going too directly. But it is your choice and what your body needs in the moment. And as we land here, we are going to start slowing down the breath again. As we finish with back bend poses, the body sometimes needs to integrate and process the opening pose. And the way I designed this flow was to provide you with strength and stability first, so it was easier for your body to respond to the process of opening up. And I hope that you felt that through your practice. Let's approach that last and final pose slowly. Shavasana. Lying down. I like to open my feet the width of my mat, my arms the width of my mat, slightly out. And we're going to close our eyes. And we are going to start again feeling slowly the underneath of our feet and toes, the work that they gave you today. The thighs and the knees and the calves, your pelvis and your hips. Feel the strength that you have harnessed through the practice today. And as we climb up into the spine, your abdominals, your collarbones, your shoulder blades, your arms and your hands, we think about the lengthening, the opening, the twisting, the mobility that we have created today. We found length in every part of our body. We found length in our neck. We found peace in our mind. And very often, when the body becomes still, the mind can start becoming slightly more active. And Shavasana can be a challenging pose because finding stillness in a very, very busy world is sometimes one of life's greatest challenges. And we don't have to pay attention to the thoughts too closely. If you want to take yourself away from them, go back into your body for those last moments, those last deep breaths. We breathe light. We breathe slow. We feel the benefits of the practice into our body. Beautiful. You can stay here You can come into a cross-legged position either way, through knees to chest. I'm going to try and stay into our space, into our mind, into our body. We found harmony in motion. We found strength and flexibility, and I want to thank you for coming today and joining me in this wonderful space and sharing your practice. Thank you. Namaste.